Okay guys, welcome back to another video on the channel today. Today we're going to be looking at a race on Iracing, driving the Porsche 911 Cup. So as you can see there, we're starting from third on the grid. This wasn't the highest strength of field you're going to come across in a Porsche Cup race, but it was a top split. I think it was around 2,700 or 2,800. I can't properly remember, but it was close to 3,000 strength of field, but that's not particularly high in the 911 Cup series. But it was the first race where I've actually managed to sort out my brakes. We had 3 races at Watkins Glen, sorry, and it took me a while. We raced Le Mans in this car when we still had the wrong brake issue, but it wasn't as I was running one brake force on that, and then I don't know why I went down to 0. I was testing it with something, and I never changed it even in the GT3, and it was massively overheating my tyres. We've since changed that, and it's definitely improved our race speed, especially in warmer conditions, and it has massively helped out. This was literally just as I did it just before this race, my last race I did at Watkins Glen, and I'm looking forward to racing this car more now because I can actually start pushing it. You can see now lights are about to go out, and we're going to start this race and get it on the way. So we're starting from P3, and we're going to try and push as hard as we can without obviously making too many mistakes. This car is not the easiest car to drive. Anyone who's got iRacing will know this is a fairly difficult car. It's got a lot of grip, but the braking, you really have to be trail braking as much as possible with this car. So starting our race just behind the third place, and these corners were quite difficult to take flat out. You had to get your line perfect, and especially in conditions like this, it was quite warm. It wasn't the most grippiest conditions. I think the temperatures were quite high. So lap times were not as fast as you would normally see, but the leader, that Greg Stewart, I think his name is, was a very fast driver in the 911, and I think the guy ahead slightly damaged his rear wing coming through that them fast chicanes at the start of the race. You can see the top right wing slightly damaged there, but it didn't seem to affect his car pretty much at all at the early stages. I think later on he had another knock that might have affected him a bit more. But you can see now, I mean, if you watch my braking inputs, you're going to see why this car is such a hard car to push hard. You can see you basically cannot put 100% brake force. You've really got to trail brake the car into the corner, let it slowly get into the line it needs to be, and then put the power on. And it takes quite a bit of getting used to. I think this has probably got a high learning curve on this car, but I'm really happy that I've managed. We qualified, for example, third in this race, and we were the third highest I rating with 4,000. At this point, we were nearly on 4.2, I think, at this point when we did this. We're back down to about 4.1 because of a bad race where I had to, I think I hit a wall on lap 2 on a GT3 race, and kind of knocked me down my I rating by about 100 because obviously I just backed out because my car was wrecked. But you can see we're managing to hold our ground pretty well in this car now, and it's going to be a case of now pushing harder and harder and getting used to the braking. It's just such a difference. Before this, I basically couldn't put 50% brake pressure in. I had to literally go from 20, 30, 40 really slowly, and I had to brake stupidly early. But now I've fixed the brake force and put it at 1.60, and it's what I was using on the MX-5 a while ago, 1.60. But I don't know why I decided to go down to 0. I'm a bit baffled by why I'd done it. I think I must have thought, because I read in it that the way I read it was that the lower the value, the less brake force you would use. It's actually the opposite. At 1.60, I can put the brake a lot more firmer to start with, and then trail brake it, and it doesn't lock up now. So this is a bit of advice if anyone's struggling with the braking. That could be an issue. It all depends on what brakes you're using as well. Mine are spring brakes. If you're using one of the proper expensive brakes, you're going to use probably 0 because it's a different way of inputting the brake pressures. So you see now we're doing okay in this race. We're just about holding third place. We've got 4th place behind us. It's fairly difficult, this car, to really push, especially when you've got someone behind you, because you've got to try and make sure you brake late, but not so late it's going to like lock up the tyres. This corner in particular was a tricky one. You had to brake just before the 200 there and just slowly let it go through the corner. I like to stay in third gear and get the power as early as I can. And another thing with this car is if you get on that power a little bit too early, the rear end can go a little bit loose. And we were running on this setup now. I think I was running the VRS setup with a few changes I had made to it to enable me to attack the first fast chicane a bit better. They were running more downforce. a lot of people seem to be faster with more downforce, but I actually took it off because I was getting a bit of understeer. I think I need to start adjusting the setups with some of these cars so that we're running more downforce but a lot more turning angles, so we can really take advantage of speed through the corners. But I think considering this is a very early race in this car, and we've not really done much running in this, and now we've sorted out the brake pressure, we can start pushing for faster lap times now. But you can see we're doing okay. This was the corner I was getting on the steer for, put a 3-wing on, so we were just running 2-wing, and I was able to pretty much take it flat out easier there, and it was quite good because it was giving me a buffer going into probably the only real overtaking position on this track. There is others, but this was the one where if you didn't take that perfectly, you would risk getting overtaken through that corner. You can see through the chicanes, nice. I really love this track. It's such a nice track, especially on iRacing. It's just really nice feeling on the track. I've only really driven this track on Project Cars. I don't think I've driven it on any other game really. This is the only track I've driven it other than Project Cars, and I'd say this feels better than Project Cars if I'm brutally honest. Mainly because on the original Project Cars, obviously, the track isn't laser scanned. Now it's laser, and you can feel the bumps of where they should be, and just some of the corners actually feel slightly different to on Project Cars, the actual angles of the corners. So it's quite interesting to see when I was driving it, the slight differences. But I have to give credit to Project Cars as well, because considering it wasn't laser scanned, they did a very good job. This corner up here in particular I felt was a little bit tighter on iRacing. On Project Cars I think that's a little less of a corner. You can probably take a bit more speed around that corner, and also this left-hander. It's not much in it, but it's very slight, but kind of feel that there was a little bit more of an angle on iRacing. So you can see now we're still in third place, and we've got fourth. You can see how competitive this iRacing is, even though this was I mean, this series is very competitive anyway, but considering we're only in not the highest top split you're going to get in, how close everyone is. And you can see on the top right screen there's a lot of cars very close together. We had a little moment then getting on the power, but we managed to save it. We managed to give ourselves a bit of a gap between ourselves and fourth place. So the main aim now was I really wanted to try and neutralise the gap between myself and second place. Second place wasn't the highest. I don't know if he was the highest rated driver in it. I think it was the first place person was the highest rated. Actually, I think there was someone who didn't qualify who might have been higher rated. I don't know if he was trying to go back through the field, but it didn't work for him in this race. I think he gained about 4 places. It's not really the track I would have tried to go back through the field on, because it's just not many overtaking positions. And then you see now going through his left hand, that was a corner there that before I did the brake pressure changing on the brake force within the options, I was really struggling, because when I was hitting the brakes it was locking up, and then I was having to lift off, and the back end was just instantly kicking out and flinging out. I mean, same into turn 1 and also this corner up here. It was massive, causing me big issues. I was having to be so early on the brakes and literally losing half a second a lap at least, maybe a second in the race. But now that I've got it sorted, I can start pushing the braking zones. And when you can then start pushing the braking zones and getting the angles better through the corners, you can then start getting on the power that little bit earlier, because you've got your lines better, everything, you're in the better part of the track. Before I was locking up and running wide and stuff, and it was a bit of a mess. But I'm really happy that I've got this car sorted now, so we can start bringing some more uploads from this car. You see we ran a little bit wide there, and give fourth place a little look at overtaking us. But what I did there, you can see how much speed I took around the corner. I just sacrificed the ×1 penalty for that exit, because I didn't really care. I wanted to give myself a buffer so that I didn't lose. I didn't want him to chuck one up the inside here. And I seemed to gain quite a bit on him on the exit of this corner and going through this fast corner now, mainly because I think I was running that slightly lower wing, which was giving me better turn. And you can see I was chucking it in, and I could pretty much take it flat out. And you can see, even though he's in our slipstream, he wasn't really able to gain enough going into the right hand. It's a really dangerous place to overtake anyway, and a lot of people on iRacing will tend to back out and just go back in your slipstream. If we were playing another game on console, etc., you wouldn't be as lucky as that. But top split racing and iRacing, I can't recommend it enough to anyone who's on console. If you've got one, I mean, I didn't have to buy a lot of my content, remember, so I'm going to say it how it is. If you haven't got like a lot of spare funds, just don't even think about iRacing, to be brutally honest, because it's just too expensive. You can still get good fun on console, Assetto Corsa and stuff like that, for much cheaper if you're running leagues, etc. But the thing with iRacing is, if you've got the disposable income and and you can afford to buy. You don't even, it's mainly if you can just wait for a sale and get the yearly subscription very cheap. I mean, I've seen it at like £30 for a whole year for the year subscription. And then, I mean, you won't get that now, that was when it was on offer, but when they have the offers, that's when to buy your subscription. Also then, just for the first 3 months, what I would personally do is just concentrate on maybe the MX-5 and just do that, get used to everything, learn stuff about the game, and then pick one series and just buy content for the maybe enough to give yourself some credits in that series, because you only need 8 rounds normally. You have dropped rounds, etc. So they normally pick 2 tracks or something, like 1 or 2 tracks that are in the base game. So it is going to cost you a bit, obviously, for a 1 car and say 6 tracks. It's going to probably cost you about £60–70, but then you've got them tracks forever, and you can then race that in that season, and then you can get up to, it'll only be like $5 credits, but everything helps. And then you can then maybe buy a few more tracks in another vehicle, depending on what the next season is, and that's the way you've got to do it. There's just no way you can buy it all at once, because it's just insanely expensive. I've said it before, you're looking at nearly over £1,000, which is a bit daft. But one thing I will say about it is you will not get racing like you do on iRacing in any other game, in my opinion. The competition is just beyond what I think a lot of people would ever expect. There's drivers on here that are, Nicky Fim, he's a professional racer. I've come across so many professional racers in races. Just the other day, another professional racer who we finished 1.5 seconds behind in GT3. He finished 4th and we finished 6th, and there was 1.5 seconds between ourselves and me, and from the professional driver and myself, and then we had another 2 cars within about 2 seconds behind us. That's how competitive it is on iRacing. The top guys, I still need to find. I think I can find another half a second just from getting more used to the game, and obviously coming back to tracks. Every time you come back to a track, it's like Project Cars and other games. Every time you do your track the first time, you'd find your limit, and then you'd have the break, say 4 or 5 months, and you come back to a track and you'd instantly be able to go about 3–4 attempts faster. I think there's 3 or 4 attempts like that I'll find, and then there's a good few attempts in terms of setup. There is definitely some things with setup that I need to learn on iRacing, to get with the car obviously rotating. I know there's like brake bias, but it's about getting the car rotating and getting on the power as early as you can, and maintaining the grip while doing that. It's going to take a lot more time than most other games, but iRacing is a game that takes, you've got to think about the long run. You can't jump into iRacing and expect to, just shoot off and be one of the best players on the game. It's never going to happen. For example, I think we're about 3.5 months into playing iRacing. My iRating now is about 4.1k. I've had a lot of annoying things. I had a few races when I don't know what bug it is, but it's happened quite a few times. When I press F4 to check my fuel, I must have some sort of shortcut on the computer, and it instantly disconnects me and takes me to the main menu screen. So I lost about 300–400 iRating just from that. But we've sorted that out now and put all the fuel buttons, mapped them to the steering wheel, so it can't happen again, so I've got no excuse for that. But it was frustrating when it happened, because it happened in 2 races, especially in Montreal, where I was doing really well. You can see this track, we're actually starting to build a little bit of a gap between ourselves and 4th place now. But you can see 1st and 2nd, I've pulled away very slightly. You can see he's actually caught up a bit on the braking zone there, but I kind of braked a little bit earlier to give myself a clean exit. I actually think the guy behind me makes a little bit of a mistake at some point, and also the 2nd place bloke there, you can see hit the wall, hit the barrier, and I think he got a slight bit of damage. It wasn't anything major, but any sort of aero damage on iRacing does lose your time in terms of straight line speed and through the corners obviously sometimes. So you can see there, we take another times 1 penalty. It was a really difficult track this week in Porsche Cup for your safety rating. I noticed a lot of people tended to drop the safety rating of this track. You can see there, because of that mistake he made, I really started to push at this point, because I thought I'm going to have to try and push hard, because if he has got any sort of damage, I need to be in a position to take advantage of that. So I did start pushing a little bit harder, and I think I start pulling away from the guy behind and maybe pushing him into a bit of a mistake, the guy behind. We'll have a look how it plays out. I can't exactly remember what actually happened to him, but I can actually have a proper look now, looking in the top right hand corner and looking in the mirror. So you can see now we've got still very close. If you look on the bottom right hand corner, we've got the live time and deltas. You can see 4th, 5th and 6th. 6th is only 2.5 seconds behind myself, so there's like a very small amount of time between the top 6 drivers at the moment. There's only 7.5 seconds, so it's like about a second per driver. And you can see we're on lap, we're around halfway through, something like that in the race. So you can see we've done a fair few laps, and it's very close racing on iRacing. I think we're just over halfway through on lap 8, I think that is. You can see there we're just starting to attacking the guy ahead now. I'm trying to. The thing with this car is it's so hard to drive fast and keep it clean. You've got to be so patient, and it's probably one of the hardest cars I've come across in gaming, in a lot of games, to actually push past the point where you're comfortable. Some people have mastered it. You can see how fast they are, the way they've got the car gliding through the corners. They really are. They know what they're doing with this car, and it's going to take a bit of time getting used to preventing the understeer, etc. But I think, considering this was only my, I think we did two races at Le Mans with the wrong brake force, and then this was my third. I think it was my third race at Watkins Glen, fourth. I can't remember. It was the last one, but all the other 3 had the wrong brake force on. I was using 0, like I say, and then we just changed it. And we changed it in a practice session before this race, so I had half an hour to practice with it, and I instantly just started going much faster and smoother with the full fuel. I do tend to practice mainly with full fuel and then just put the lighter fuel in at the end. One thing that I've got to start getting used to is finding out where the fuel tanks are on different cars, so that when you're taking the fuel out, whether you need to raise lower the front or the rear suspension, just so obviously if the fuel tank's closer to the front of the car or etc., it does affect it. Like Mercedes AMG, for example, I've only just realised it. I don't know how I didn't even realise this earlier, that the fuel tank must be closer to the front. So when you obviously take fuel out, the front raises. So you want to lower that front down for lower fuel runs, and that's what I've just found out at Line Rock. Now practicing that, and instantly went 2 tenths quicker at a track that's very short. So it's little things like that that are just going to keep coming to me, and working out how to just get the final few attempts and keep gaining on these top drivers, because some of these drivers are just like I say, they're extremely fast. You know, coming across Patrick Heinzman, I think it is Holzman, sorry, seen him in the Ferrari 488, and the speed that guy carries through the corners is just, it's just unbelievable. I mean, I think his I rating is like 8,500 or something, so we're probably never going to get anywhere near that. But our aim is to get, I think my aim is to get around 5,000 I rating, towards near 5,000 I rating for the end of the year. I think it's a realistic target, because that'll be too much. Like, we've got this season, next, and then the next season. I'm just going to mainly concentrate on the Porsche Cup and GT3. I do have the 488, and I've got a race at this track to upload. A very good result with it. Again, it wasn't the strongest top split, but any race in that car is always going to be a battle to get a good result, and it was a very good result I got, and I'm looking forward to uploading that race. But I've got the track to do that, but I think with iRacing, if you try and spread your time between 3 different series, you're not going to do as well as what you could. So I'm just going to break it down to 2 series and just concentrate on 2 series within iRacing. And I will probably do the odd Ferrari race if it's a track I particularly like, and I know I can be competitive without much practice, then I will probably do it. But I'm not going to put too much time into it, because it's just not. It's just too hard, especially when you're still trying to do a set of course uploads. It's just a lot. It's really time consuming. I just don't really want to, have too much going on that I end up not performing as well as I should. So you can see now, the guy in front definitely must have had some sort of aero damage or something off that hitting that wall, unless he's just struggling a bit now. He's got a bit of pressure behind, and also we're slightly in his slipstream. We must be very close to his slipstream now, and the guy behind started to fall off a bit as we've started to really push. You can see there now, if you look in the mirror, I didn't catch how it happened, but he's actually fallen off our speed a bit. We've actually got about 1.3 second gap behind to the guy behind, which is quite nice to have. It always means, I find once you get a little bit of a gap to the guy behind, you can start then yourself pushing that little bit harder, because you don't have to be looking in your mirror to see if he's going to be gaining on you. And when you're not concentrating on your mirror, you're concentrating on your drive, and you can drive that much smoother and start pushing a little bit harder. So you can see the guy up ahead clearly looks like to me it's like he's struggling with a bit of aero damage, because his speed down the straight looks like it's suffering very slightly. It's not massive, but it's enough to let me just get within his slipstream. His cornering speed looks okay, looks like he's got plenty of grip through the corners, but it definitely seems to be affecting his speed down the straights. You can see there, I really did try my hardest to get close to the guy, but it's such a hard car to push hard, especially when you're chasing drivers that are reasonably fast and know what they're doing with this car. And probably some of these guys, this could be their third season with this car, because this car came out, I think it was on season 1 this car came out, so it's already had 2 full seasons. This is the 3rd season, so it's just nice to start getting used to it. And I think hopefully next season in this car we can start pushing for some better results. But at the moment, 3rd place, I can't complain at that. I think it was the best result I could probably get at the moment with this car, and start pushing and trying to find. I need to find at least, I think, about probably half a second a lap, and I'd be very much closer to the top guys. You can see the guy up ahead, the guy that's in the lead, Greg Stewart. He's won a lot of races in this car. I think the ratio of winning to races to how many he's entered is very high. He's not the fastest by any means in this car, but he's an extremely fast driver in this car, so use him as a benchmark. With 5.5 seconds behind. But one thing I'll say about the gaps when you get people like that from, I don't think they push 100% when they know that they've got a gap, because if I had a gap of about 4 seconds, I wouldn't be pushing 100%, because this car is just, it's that close to the limit all the time. If you make a mistake, it's just going to cost you so much time, and it's very easy to make that mistake. So you can see there now, we're starting to pull away now from because the guy behind has lost the slipstream. We're starting to gain about 1 tenth to 2 tenths a lap over that guy, and obviously because we're now concentrating on drive, and all we're looking at now is a car ahead, we're concentrating on lines, we're managing to pull over a little bit of way, and you can see 6th place is now 3.2 seconds behind ourselves as well. So it's clear that we've managed to increase our speed slightly, start pushing a little bit harder. But you can see this is the type of gaps we're talking about. You know, on console, whenever I'm racing console, it'd be very rare you come across a public lobby. This isn't a private, this isn't a league race, this is a public lobby where it's this kind of driving in every race. I mean, you never get a race that's not like this pretty much. You do get races where you have incidents, but I find that the hype, once you further up in your splits and the more you've driven the game, you will find that they are less common, a lot less common in terms of when they happen and how much they happen. I don't think I've had many instances at all in terms of driving where someone's took me out recently. I can't even remember the last time someone's deliberately, like knocked me off. Or I've had racing incidents which I'll always take because it's not deliberate. But in terms of just driving, it's been really good fun. And you can see we're going into our last lap now. It's lap 13. Obviously this car doesn't have massively long races, they're quite short races. 13 laps at Watkins Glen, it's like 25 minutes or something like that. And we're just going to try and keep this position now. I think the guy behind there, the Julian guy, quite a fast driver also. He managed to overtake 4th place, and he's going to push hard. But for this last lap, I didn't want to make any risks, so I just drove it as clean as I could. I don't know when I was watching the replay, I noticed he was flashing at people when he was behind me. He was flashing me down this straight now for some weird reason. I don't know if you can make it out on the top right hand thing, you can see him flashing. Maybe he wanted to try and put me off, but he was doing it to people when he was right behind them, and I found it a bit wrong. I don't think I'd if there's someone in front of you who's in position, I don't think you can start flashing them to get out of your way. I think it's disrespectful, and I'm not surprised if a few people would report him for it, because it's not on. I think it's trying to cheat your way past someone, because you shouldn't be flashing at someone who's in the correct position. They're not, you're not lapping them, you're just behind them. You should just try and get past how you should by overtaking. So you can see there, he's gained I think 2 tenths on us, but we're taking it quite easy on this last lap. We didn't want to push. I think the guy ahead's doing the same, because I think he realised that I'm not going to push for the top spot, and vice versa. So you know, we're taking a third place position, and the tyres are obviously going slightly now. You can see, I think maybe coming out the exit here now, we're pushing, generally we just keep it nice and calm. I wasn't sure if the back end was a little bit loose there, but you can see we're just taking it nice and easy, keeping it smooth, keeping it on the track, going into the final corner, and then just pushing it around the final corner and going over the line for a very nice third place in my first, I would call it my first proper race where I've actually got the brake force right. And Imola's this week now, so hopefully I'll have an Imola video with this car coming to you guys very soon. Hope you enjoyed this little video driving the Porsche Cup. I really enjoy driving it. It's a really nice car to drive, and I'll be back with more videos soon. I'll leave you with my qualifying lap from the replay for you guys to enjoy. Thanks again for watching, and make sure you sub the channel if you haven't already. Thanks guys.